What is going on? Looks like we are live here. John Marone, the Ultimate One-on-One Coach, with an amazing, amazing guest, a good friend of mine, somebody who I've known for quite a long time. We might even get into some stories here of some things we did that we're probably not so proud of. Definitely, I was talking to my wife today about some of the stuff that we used to do. So maybe we'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit as well. But before we get started, guys, go ahead and share this out. I'm going to share it on mine. Ryan, if you want to share it on yours, let's go ahead and share this bad boy out so we could add some value. Let me see here.
You're going to have to coach me through this one. How do you share this?
So go to your Facebook page. You have your phone on you?
I'm on my phone, unfortunately.
You're on your phone? All right. Then you know what? Stacy's going to have – she'll take care of it for you. I'm going to share it on my end.
She's on it.
Yeah. Boom. Everybody else. There we go. We got some people. And make sure when you guys jump in, say what's up. Tell us where you're from. Let us know you are here. And I'm shared. Boom. Let us know you're here. Ashley, what's going on? Christy, Jesse, I love your new Facebook name. Jesse Diana. Jesse Diana. I love it, brother. I love it. I saw you riding the bull the other day as well. So the wife is on. The mom is on. What is going on? Keep on sharing this out. We want to get a few more people on before we dive into this amazing story, life-changing. And I'll tell you what, Ryan, man, look, I had an idea of the story, and you just kind of sent me the Facebook messenger.
Yeah.
And I read it, and legit, like, I got chills. And it's just it's crazy because, you know, my story comes from, you know, the addiction side and broke and poor and that side. But your story relates in a different way. But you came over adversity and you overcame challenges. It was just like in a different way. And I think it's an incredible thing on how you were told one thing that could have absolutely made you fall into what I was doing, right? The drugs and everything. And you took it a different way. So at first, I'm grateful and I'm honored to have you on and call you a friend and reconnect after all these years. But Andrew, what's going on? We're probably going to see some people on here from the old Brick Memorial days, huh?
Oh, boy.
Man,
here we go.
This is awesome. All right, guys, keep sharing this out. And we're going to go ahead and do some Q&A at the end, too. So once again, my name is John Marone, and I'm here with my buddy, Ryan Palmieri. And Ryan, just kind of introduce yourself to the people who are jumping on, whether they're you know, my sphere, your sphere. Yeah. Introduce yourself.
Okay. So from my sphere, hopefully you know who I am if you follow me on Facebook. Ryan Palmieri, Brick Township.
Woo woo.
Born and bred. Well, not born, but bred, really. Brick Memorial. So I'm on, you know, the good side of Brick. So, you know, I bounced around from job to job at a high school, and, you know, I was doing construction a lot, and I always told myself, you know, you ever get to that point where you're kind of stuck in life, dude, just join the Army. And I joined the Army because I was stuck in life. I couldn't get out of my own way, and I was, you know, kind of fed up chasing paycheck to paycheck. So I decided I would just wait for paychecks instead that come on the 1st and the 15th. So I joined the Army about 10 years ago. I've got 6 deployments now, and, you know, plenty of good times, fun times, great times, and, you know, my fair share of not so great times. But yeah, I mean, that we'll get into that a little bit. But I mean, that's kind of it. Purple Heart guy, not happy about that. Purple Heart's the one award that you never want to get. That just means that, you know, the enemy got you. It's a enemy marksmanship badge. So, but that's the story. You know, I want to share. Not really so much the story, John. And it's really not about the actual act of me getting hurt. It was just everything that actually followed what happened. That, you know, looking back on now, I use it to drive the rest of my life, really.
It's funny, though, real quick. So you said Purple Heart. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, from a citizen, right, from someone that's standing far away. I'm like, man, Purple Heart. You know, you hear about it. You don't really understand what it is unless you have friends or family that obviously serve. But, you know, I guess you guys, you know, in the nitty gritty have a little different meaning for that, right?
Yeah. You really don't want one. It just means that either they had a better shot than you did, or you did something stupid and got hurt. So, yeah, you know, it was an unfortunate circumstance, but in the end, I think that I'm a stronger person because of it. So.
Well, you definitely are, brother. You definitely are. And so you're in the Army, and how long you been in the Army for?
Just about 10 years. Well, I was in just about 10 years. I recently got out uh, of active duty, but now I just work for Department of the Army as a civilian. So, I got out, but I really didn't get out.
And I mean, give us a quick 2 minutes of kind of the time that you spent. We talked about this before. Time that you've spent away, and kind of broad spectrum. You have to get into the minutes and the hours, but kind of the percentage.
Yeah. So, me and my wife actually we do this periodically, and we did it most recently. I don't know, a few months ago or a month ago, and we sit down and we try to calculate between deployment time and training time and all that time spent with the Army as opposed to with my family. And like I said, just about 10 years in, we were looking at 5 years roughly of me being deployed, and then to me, I was like, man, that's really not too horrible. It's not great, obviously, 5 years away from family. But then we started to plug in, like all the training time, and that almost calculates up just as bad as deployment time because it's time I'm not spending with my family, and I'm stateside. So like it's harder. So we got down to that, and I mean, we've been together. We were together before I got in the Army. She followed me through. She's been with me through the whole process. But out of 10 years, we're looking at like 2.5 to 3 years of actually being together.
That's insane, man. And you know what? She still stands by your side, strong and strong as you are a soldier. She's a stronger, better half. And I always say it, man. Behind every great number one, there's a better number two.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether you're in business, guys, or whether you husband, wife, whatever you want to call that significant other. Right. There is a better number two behind an amazing number one. And with that number two, the number one. I mean, let's be real, Ryan. If you didn't have her, and I want to dive into the story here, but if you didn't have her, do you think you would have overcame those obstacles at the level that you did?
Absolutely not. I mean, every day when I was doing physical therapy, trying to rehab, she was right there, like pushing me to keep going. She was my living nurse. I mean, dude, I hate to get graphic on Facebook, but like I couldn't wipe my ass for months. And I couldn't wash myself for months. She was the one doing it. I mean, so it speaks to the caliber of woman she is.
I love that.
There's no doubt in my mind that it would have at least doubled, if not tripled, my recovery time.
And not even woman, right? Human being, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, human being.
Amazing human being. And Stacey, I never met her, but I see her on Facebook and whatnot. But same with my wife, right? So like, my story. I mean, You name it, I was doing it, and I wasn't the best person in the world, and I try to kick her to the curb, man, and she's like, "No, I'm going to Florida with you." I'm like, "I have nowhere to live. I'm just gonna go there and couch hop like I'm couch hopping here in Jersey." She's like, "I'm going with you." I'm like, "You're crazy. You're absolutely insane. Something's the matter with you." And she saw something in me I didn't see in myself, right? So I'm sure it's the same thing for you guys.
Absolutely.
So, okay, guys, share this bad boy out. We're about to dive in here, so we can go ahead and just give you guys a heads up, Ryan being able to talk about his story is extremely vulnerable. And that's a huge piece to why he's becoming the person he's becoming every single day, right? A better version of himself. He's able to be vulnerable about the tragic things that happen in his life to grow. So, I applaud you once again for coming in here. And you actually had hit me up and said, bro, I want to be able to add some value to some people. And when I talk about my story, it also helps me. So I appreciate you coming on here, but let's kind of dive in and walk us through exactly what happened. However you want to start it, nobody really knows from watching this what happened to you, or I didn't get into any real big details. So the floor is yours, man. Go ahead.
Okay. Again, like I said before, like my whole story really, to me, the important stuff to me happens after after I actually get hurt. So like a lot of the gory details, I don't really think are necessary. However, we were on a dismounted patrol in Afghanistan, 2013, June 1st, 2013. And we came under, some small arms fire, and we were stuck like way out in the open. Horrible spot to be stuck. And I mean, we were heads down. It was bad. Like no one could move. And it was heavy machine gun fire. So like we were in it. Eventually through one crazy Afghan dude that just stood up with a machine gun in his hands, firing from the hip, was able to suppress the guys long enough for us to get to cover. I never did get that guy's name. I wish I did, because he was a hero. He John Wayne'd this firefight. It was awesome. So we get to cover, right? And we're in a good position where we should probably just leave. Well, orders come down from higher that they know where the machine guns are, they know where they were put, and we need to move and to go get them off the battlefield so this doesn't happen to our teammates. So, we kind of suck it up. Yeah, we don't want to. We know that it's stupid. It goes against everything that we knew to be the right way to deal with this type of situation, but we do it. So, we're maneuvering towards the location where they said that these weapons were at. And we were moving three elements. And, the first element occupies this berm, get up on top of it, lay down. Second team, I was on the second team. We occupy this berm. The first team goes down and continues moving. We're just waiting for the third team to come up. Third team gets to us. And the first person that comes up is, a real dear friend of mine, a great guy, my lieutenant. And I pick him up on top of this berm. And when I pick him up on top of this berm, he steps right on an IED. IED goes off, and he took the brunt of it. I mean, to be honest with you, he lost his legs, and basically shielded me from getting any worse than what I got. So I had a piece of shrapnel go in, kind of screwed up my tricep real bad, blew a nice nasty hole in my left leg, about the size of like a football, and then sent shrapnel all up the right side of my body. And one piece in particular went into my lower back and lodged into L3, wherever the sciatic nerve comes out and splits. So right above that is where this piece of shrapnel came in and lodged into my spine, severing that nerve. I didn't get knocked out. I was completely conscious the entire time. By conscious, I mean, like, I got thrown quite a ways. It landed on my back, and for the life of me, couldn't figure out what just happened. In my mind, and this is going to sound crazy, because every time I say it, it sounds even crazier to myself. I was like, holy crap, how did a bus get out here in the middle of that? Like, I thought I got hit by a bus. And I was like, where did this bus come from? How did I not see it or hear it?
That's nuts.
But that's the way the human, the brain works, is like, people talk about when they get into car accidents. Like, oh, everything was like slow motion, right? That's all the adrenaline dumping in, and your brain having so much sensory overload that it doesn't know what to do with the information, so it relies on what it knows. And they're like, well, you just got pushed a really far away, really hard, so you probably got hit by a large vehicle. It's probably a bus. And that was my first instinct. I was like, where the hell did this bus come from, and how did I get hit? It wasn't a bus, as it turns out. It was an IED. So the dust settles, and, we immediately start to assess, because it's not a nice situation. And I had knocked out, I hit him real hard. I won't say knocked out on Facebook, Brian, if you're watching. But like my best friend, he was my squad leader. I hit him hard. I'll say that. And I'm laying on top of him at this point. I had no idea I was on top of anybody. I thought I was on the ground. Like, get off me, get off me, get off me. He pushes me off, and I'm like, whoa. And that's when everything kind of clicked and everything became real. So Brian did amazing thing. Brian Lambert, directing traffic, getting soldiers where they need to be in order to make sure that we're still safe while, people are rendering aid to LT, people are rendering aid to me. I'm still like, I don't feel anything. I'm like, man, I'm gravy, baby. So we ended up losing another soldier to another IED in that on top of that same hill. Things are bad. It was a bad day. But at the end of this engagement, I was able to walk, and this is a key part. I was able to walk from that berm onto a helicopter. I had, a friend assist me, and I was definitely scared to death to even walk at that point because I'm like, IEDs are going off everywhere. I don't want to walk anywhere. But luckily, I had some really good, brave dudes around me. They're like, bro, we're gonna walk with you, and we're gonna walk you to the bird. So I did get on that helicopter. I walked to it under partially my own strength, and that's kind of where the story starts for me, because that's the part that changed my life. Was the moment I got on that bird, and it's all of us that got wounded, and there was a few of us, and looking and assessing like what just happened. And the fact that it wasn't any worse than what it was. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't great. But it could have been worse, far worse. So the entire flight, which wasn't long, I was being a little baby, I'm not going to lie. I'm like, listen, I want some painkillers because adrenaline has worn off, and now I'm starting to feel some pain.
I probably want a few painkillers too, man. Yeah.
And I'm like, Doc, can I get something?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're good. Like, it's better that you're as coherent as possible for when you get to the hospital. I'm like, okay, cool. And thank God, because I get to the hospital and they start cutting off my clothes. And the wound on my leg, like I'd seen a portion of it because I looked through the hole that the shrapnel came through, and the hole was only this big. And I looked through and I seen meat, and I knew it was, not great, but it wasn't horrible as far as I thought. So I put a tourniquet on, and like I drove on. Well, they cut my pants off, and it was massive, huge hole. And I was like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this. But the doctors are talking to me. They're trying to keep me going, see if I got knocked out, assess for brain injuries, stuff like that. And I remember, like, right before they knocked me out, the doctor was like, you're probably going to end up losing this leg. And I said, whoa, hold up. You mean my left leg? I'm going to lose it? He's like, yeah, more than likely we're going to have to take it off. And I was like, absolutely not. You're not taking my leg off. And I was like, I walked off the battlefield. Like, it worked. When I walked here. It worked. There's no reason to take it off. And he was like, well, there's medical reasons and blood clots and all these things that could form because of, the injury that you sustained to your leg. And he was like, even if we saved the leg, you'll never walk normal again because you will develop deep vein thrombosis. You'll get these blood clots deep inside your leg that at some point will rupture. They'll have to redo surgery. You'll never gain full mobility back in the leg. And I was like, Doc, again, I respect your opinion. You're not cutting off my leg yet. So I went through a series of surgeries over the next 7 days. It was 7 days before I actually left Afghanistan to start my process coming back home. And, I think it was day 2. They keep you heavily medicated, by the way, on ketamine. All right. So I don't know if anyone's ever recreationally done ketamine, but you know that you could be gone for, you can lose days.
There may or may not be something called a K-hole that people fall into.
Yes. You can lose large chunks of time.
Yeah.
And I did. I lost large chunks of time. And the nurse came into my room and she was like, Ryan, like, you really need to call your wife. And I was like, I I just called her. And like, that was 3 days ago. And I was like, holy crap, like 3 days ago? And they're like, yeah, every day we come in here and we give you the phone and you end up falling asleep. And I'm like, oh, man. But I'll never forget the phone call that I made to my wife. And it was important to me because this is what kept me driving to fight with the doctors, which isn't always a great idea. But I told my wife, I said, babe, I got hurt. I'm banged up pretty good. I got 10 fingers, 10 toes, and my face is fine. Nothing.
That's the moneymaker, though. Hold on, that's your real moneymaker, bro. We know that.
To me, that was the most important part. Well, okay, let's be honest.
Yeah, there's something else below the weight. Yeah.
That was the first thing I checked. But
it obviously works now, guys. By the way.
Yes, everything's good to go. So I told her that, and I told her I'm coming home with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and my face isn't jacked up. And, for her, I hope, and I know that it did. It gave her, some sense of relief because I know at this point she's going absolutely insane. And that, honestly, like, that's a story for another time because her whole story leading up to her meeting me at Walter Reed, epic. So funny. Like, she tried to pack a bag and couldn't. It was ridiculous, the stuff that she put into her bag, like bathing suits and shit. Like,
to go to a resort.
But I kept telling her that. Or I told her that, and like I kept telling the doctors, like, hey, I made a promise to my wife. I'm coming home with 10 fingers, 10 toes. Like, you're not cutting my limbs off. And I had this one doctor come in, and I just got moved to Bagram Airfield, they got a little bit better of a prolonged treatment facility there. And I get there, and, the surgeon that's going to be working on me, comes up to me and is like, look, the bottom line is you have blood clots on your lungs. So these blood clots are likely coming from your leg, traveling up into your lungs. And he's like, it's not a super big deal at the lungs, but if they move past your lungs and get up to your heart, you're dead. And I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. Like, I don't want to die. So, okay. And he was like, the first thing that we would do is take your leg off. We'll take your leg off. We'll get you all stitched up, and we'll see if that makes it better. And he was like, if that doesn't work, we're going to have to take the arm off. Now, both of my injuries are sustained to the upper part of each limb. So we're talking about taking the entire limb off at this point. And I went to the doctor. And of course, I got all sorts of like bandages, like wound vacs and stuff like that attached. I'm like, doc, I can do this. I can do this. I can do anything I need to do with my hand. And you want to take my arm off. I wiggled my toes. I moved my leg up and down, side to side, bent my knee, did everything. I was like, it works. You're not taking them off.
Fighting. And
he was like, just understand that if the blood clots continue, like, we're going to have to do this. So I'm fighting. And finally, like, I get assigned a doctor at Walter Reed back in the States who's going to be my primary surgeon. And I get assigned to her. This is about day 5 in Afghanistan. And I'm talking to her on the phone, and she was like, hey, look, I know that they're talking about taking limbs off and stuff. And she's like, honestly, it's a damn good thing you fought it, because what they're seeing as blood clots in your lungs they are blood clots, but they're not because of your leg or because of your arm. It was your body's reaction to protect your lungs because of the blast. It didn't want your lungs to collapse, so it formed clots instantly.
Wow.
And that's what saved your lungs from collapsing.
Saved your life.
Essentially saved my life. And I was like, holy crap, these freaking people are about to start chopping off limbs over here for no good reason.
Man.
So, I get to the hospital, and I go through it. The first 3 months that I was at Walter Reed, I did 26 surgeries to repair my tricep, to repair my left quad, and then to do like wound cleanouts, because I had all the shrapnel. Of course, anytime you get any kind of wound related to an IED, what happens is like, it's not just shrapnel or rocks and stuff that goes inside your body. It's all that sand and debris and dirt and shit. I mean, basically, it could be
peroxide won't clean the cut out.
Exactly. So you got to go in and they get serious with it and they keep your wounds open as long as they can to make sure that they're as clean as possible when they actually do seal them up. So, I'm going through all these surgeries and I'm on, John, when I tell you I'm on like every painkiller you could possibly imagine, I'm on them all. And then nerve blockers to help with the nerve pain and then anxiety medication because of everything that just happened. And I mean, you can ask my wife. The amount of pills that I was on a day is staggering. Like 2 Percocets every 2 hours, all day.
For how long?
That was the lowest level of painkiller that I was on.
For how long were you doing that for?
4 months, until I decided to get off. And that piece actually plays into what we're going to get into. Actually, we can just hop right into that. At some point, throughout all these surgeries and shit, and I'm realizing that I'm so doped up that, like, I don't feel like I'm recovering. Like, physically, I'm making strides towards recovery at this point. But mentally, like, I haven't recovered at all. Like, every day is just like it happened yesterday. So, one day, I told my wife, I was like, I'm done taking this shit. And she's like, okay. So I took all these pills. Probably not the right idea. And I just flushed them down the freaking toilet. And I was like, I'm done taking shit. And this was on like a Friday. And my next doctor's appointment was on Monday. So it was some heavy withdrawals going on. Like super, super bad withdrawals. Something like I've never experienced before in my life. And the doctor was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I stopped taking all the medication. She was like, all of it? I was like, yep, all of it. She was like, at once? I was like, at once. I'm done. And she's like, okay, I get it, but you can't just stop taking nerve blockers because you could actually die. I was like, how soon? She's like, normally it happens pretty instant. You're supposed to wean off of it. I was like, all right, so I'm in the clear. I'm not going to die. I feel like I'm going to die, but I'm not going to die. And she's like, yep, you should be good. I was like, okay, awesome. I wish I would have known that. I probably should have asked you about it first. I didn't, but I'm going to power through this detox. And she was like, let me give you something to help you out. I was like, I don't want anything. I don't want any more. She's like, all right, it's going to suck for you. And it did. And it was like 2.5, 3 weeks of straight detox, running a fever, sweats, the cold fucking sweat. It was horrible.
Everything.
It was miserable. Throwing up. I mean, couldn't eat. It was horrible. But at the end of it, I felt good. You know what I mean? Like, physically, I've been going to rehab every day and just doing everything that I could because I had these doctors that said I couldn't. It will be a miracle if you can walk again, let alone run or take an Army PT test again. It will take a miracle.
Yep.
And I heard that word. Miracle. John, this is my opinion, and it's not religious by any means. I don't mean this in a religious manner. But it's my belief that if you're lucky, you have only one miracle in your lifetime. It's unfortunate because that miracle was the fact that you were born. Look at your daughter. Your daughter was a miracle.
Yep.
I hope to God that is her life. Okay. I hope to God it's her last miracle. Because think about every time we talk about miracles, right?
Hold on. People, you better be sharing this thing out because he's just about to drop bombs. So I'm already getting chills. So share this bad boy out. Ryan just went ahead and, man, I was like in that movie with you, and that was actually your life. So share this thing out, man. I'm excited to hear what we got going on next. So this is what I really, we talked. You sent me the thing, and you said, man, it's about miracles. Not that you hate the word, but you're like, miracle is this. And I was like, that's gold. That's brilliant from real life, scenarios. And you came out with this. So crank it away. Let's go.
Right. So when you think about when you use the term miracle, right? When you when you use it properly, what are we saying? Like, it is a miracle that you survived that car crash. It is a miracle that I didn't die when an IED went off a foot from me. That's a miracle. So when we use the word miracle, we're talking about a near-death experience, right? So when the problem that people have is like they get stuck, they get fixated on this word miracle. It would be a miracle if I could save my marriage. I mean, so someone needs to come close to death in order for you to save your marriage? It's going to be a miracle for me to walk again? So I need to like almost die in order to walk again? Like, no, I almost died. That was my miracle. Now what am I going to do with that miracle? What do you do with it? And the good thing is like everyone that says that, like it's going to take a miracle for me to make it through this financial hardship.
Yep.
So you need to almost die in order to get yourself away from bankruptcy, or you need to use the miracle you already have, the miracle you were given at birth, and actually take action and use that miracle to get yourself to repair your marriage, to get yourself out of bankruptcy, to get your life back together, to get back in the gym, to feel healthy again. Use the miracle you already have. You don't need a new one. If you get a new one, that means you almost die. Do you really want to almost die to fix your marriage? Or do you want to use the miracle that you were given at birth to fix your marriage?
Gold.
And that, dude, I'm telling you. And it happened one day when I was in the hospital, and like I said, my wife was there. Every day I was doing PT, and like they try to make it easy for you. Like, we don't want you to push too hard. You just had this injury and you're recovering. And I hate that. If I'm there to recover, let me recover. Now, did I go too hard sometimes? I'm sure I did. And my wife would probably attest to that they're like, okay, take walks up and down the stairs. Okay, I'm gone. I'm going up and down these stairs.
Running.
As fast and as hard as I can. And I'm pushing myself. Because I'm using this miracle. Right? I'm going to prove them wrong. And it doesn't take a miracle. It takes hard work. It takes goal setting. It takes you pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone in order to accomplish what it is that you want to do. I wanted to, and this sounds crazy because I hate running now. I've always hated running, but I wanted to run again. Doctor said I couldn't do it. It'd be a miracle. So, okay, I'll show you what I can do with the miracle I already had. Because it's not going to take a miracle for me to run again. It's going to take me pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, setting those goals, meeting those goals for me to be able to run again. Because I can already walk. If I can walk, I can jog. If I can jog, guess what? I can run. Mm-hmm. It might not be today, but it's going to be eventually, and I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it. And that's what I kept telling myself. They're like, okay, well, let's just go. We'll do some ab work today to work on your core and some stability because your lower back is all jacked up. I was like, cool, core, let's do it. Like, I'm going to hit it hard. I'm like, okay, well, let's start with 10 crunches. For what? Why am I going to do 10 when I can do 50? I can do those right now and not feel pain. Why would I only do 10? You want me to build up my core? Well, guess what? I'm building up this core. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it fast and hard because that's how I know how to. And if I want to meet my goal of being able to run again, guess what? I'm going to do it. And I'm going to show you that it doesn't take a miracle. It doesn't take me almost dying to run again.
Limits. Limits. The only thing that's limited to you is your belief that there's limits.
Exactly.
Right? It's insane. But like you said, you have a second chance at life, right? But you don't necessarily see it that way. You see it as, man, like in that moment, and that's what I want to ask you. So in that moment of you being told, hey, you could possibly die, you were told several times that.
Yeah.
What was it that you said, like, why did you say no? I know you told your wife this and that, but there's something else that you had to say, like, this it can't happen now. Let me give you an example, right? So I did a Facebook Live recently about it, but when Hurricane Sandy, when we almost died, that was the moment when I was like, oh my God, like my life was like so small and my impact was so little. And I can't believe I allowed my time on this earth to be wasted.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me into who I am today. But what was it for you? What was it like? Because obviously we said, telling the wife, you got to come home. You told your wife something, right? You got to come home. But what was that deep thing that you were like, said to yourself, whoa, hold on a minute. I can't die because this. Or I can't lose my leg because this.
So, I mean, it's kind of funny. Not really funny. And I think a lot of guys are kind of the same way I am. Like, I always kept things, like, tight to me. Like, I never really shared emotion. I didn't really care about that or feelings. Like, ew, yuck. It's feelings, a dirty area that we just don't go down as men. And I had always done that, even with my wife. And it wasn't like just something inside me just wouldn't allow me to open up with anybody on any like true, deep, meaningful way. I just never did it. And I remember like the first time that they were like, you're not out of the woods yet. I'm like, well, shit, I ain't done yet neither. Like I didn't know at the end of the day, like, does my family really know how I feel about them? Does my wife really know how I feel about them, about her? And I was like, man, and that's my fault. I jacked that up. You know what I mean? That was 100% on me. That wasn't her not pushing me, because believe me, she'll tell you, she pushed the crap out of me all the time. Like, dude, you need to open up more. And I'm like, why? Just feelings. Yeah. But sitting there and I'm like, well, shit, dude, I really do need to. And it was like an eye-opening experience for me, because I never thought I would have ever thought like that. Because in my mind, like, we don't do that. You know what I mean? We smash boulders and, drag big sticks around. I don't know. And in that moment when I realized, like, did I leave things unsaid? Was there deeper connections I could have made with people that I didn't, that wanted deeper connections with me? And through my own stupidity, like, push that off to the side because I felt uncomfortable dealing with my own feelings. And, I had that moment where it was just like, it made me almost want to throw up. I don't know how it did for you, but honestly, like, I wanted to throw up. And I actually, to be honest with you, talking about it right now, I kind of want to throw up. But like, that's how it made me feel. And I was like, well, shit, if I don't get home, are they really ever going to truly know, like, what they mean to me? Mm-hmm. And then I used that, you know what I mean? Like, it motivated me to just want to be a better me. And not just for everybody, like, but for me. Like, I wanted to be a better me for me.
Look, we all got to be selfish in our growth here. I mean, I always talk about adding value to other people, but you have to be selfish in a way in order to grow at a pace you need to grow at, yes, in order to deliver the value that you're learning through your growth to somebody else.
Right.
Right. I mean, why do you think when you're on an airplane, they're like, hey, if for some reason we got turbulence and the oxygen mask comes down, you put it on you first.
Yeah.
Right? Because you got to be selfish in order to help other people.
Exactly.
So that's insane, man. Just being, and it's so cool now that you're here talking so vulnerable and open with all these yucky emotions, right? Like, and it's just so natural now.
Yeah.
Because you had said something that I repeat all the time, and I'm so glad you said it, was basically get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you had to be extremely uncomfortable at that time, right? I mean, not just obviously being on pills, all this other stuff, but what do you think was the most uncomfortable things you had to go through and look back? Because, the person you were and the person you are, dude, you had to endure some stuff, right? You had to go through suffering. And I think anybody in through their journey of life, in order to get to be a better person, there's suffering they have to go through. Some self-inflicted, some just happen. Some they do intentionally. What was that suffering that you knew you had to get through, that uncomfortableness, in order to kind of get where you're at today?
Oh, I'm not going to exaggerate. There was a lot. There was a lot of suffering. And in fact, I think that there was more suffering than there was actual times of enlightenment, if you will. And the one thing that sticks out the most in my mind is, this is about, I don't know, about 3 weeks after I decided I was going to quit taking all my medication. I finally got to the point where I was like, I'm going to start hitting the gym again. I was in the best shape of my life when I got hurt. I was just I'm not going to lie. I was awesome. Perfect shape. I was working out like twice a day. It was just a monster of a man. And then I lost like 40 pounds in the first week because I couldn't even move. So I got hurt. I was a beast. By the time I left and came home, I looked like Schmeagle. It was horrible. So I was excited to get back into the gym. And that was one of my big motivators, because the gym has always been my place to go and, release tension, to release stress. So I was excited to get back in there. Well, I didn't know it, but as it turns out, it takes about 2.5 to 3 weeks for nerve blockers to completely exit your system. At this point, I'd been walking, I've been getting into some jogging pretty steadily on the treadmill, and I was like, I'm gonna get back in the gym and I'm gonna get back in shape. So I was in the gym, and you have to imagine my environment. I'm in an environment where I have all 4 limbs, and I'm surrounded by dudes that don't. And I'm running next to this guy on the treadmill. I say running, but I was jogging. He was running, like full sprint. And the 2 bent paper clip setup. I mean, double amputee, and this dude is getting it on this treadmill. And I'm like, yeah, I just kind of like, I'm feeling down about myself. I'm like, shit, man, this guy's getting it on paper clips, and I got what God gave me, and I can't keep up. So I'm sitting there jogging, and I'm like, I can't get too far ahead of myself. I need to, progress in the right ways. I don't want to injure myself or whatever. So I'm just jogging, and I pick up the speed a little bit, a light run, and something happened. I couldn't feel my legs anymore. I collapsed. Just boom, hit the treadmill, hit the wall, just like epic gym fail style. And I hit the wall, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? I'm running on the treadmill, and then I just eat it. I just collapsed like a house of cards. So I hit the wall. The dude that was running next to me slows his treadmill down and comes over to me. He's like, dude, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, my pride is obviously severely fractured at this point, but I'm fine. I have no feeling in my legs or my feet. And he's like, should probably get you to the doc. I was like, yeah, we probably should. So we go over, and I talked to the doctor, and they're like, we knew that you had a spinal cord injury. We knew that you had, the severed sciatic nerve. What we didn't account for was the fact that we thought you were pretty much good because you're on these nerve blockers. Turns out that's not so much the case. So I was like, okay. And they're like, well, there's a little bit more damage than we thought, so we're going to have to go in and do some like nerve conduction tests and to determine like exactly how bad the nerve damage is. And I was like, oh, well, okay, fine. I was like, is this like permanent? Like, am I paralyzed? Because like that's how I felt. And like,
still at this point, I mean, you're at the doctor, however long later, you still can't feel your legs.
Yeah, no. So the doctor was like, okay, it's weird. It's not because you have a severed spinal cord. So technically you're not paralyzed. However, the nerve that sends the message to your brain that says that your legs are there and tells your legs what to do is severed. So, wow. Yeah, I was like, okay, will I walk again? We have to start this process all over again. And we did. We did have to start it all over again. But basically, it was at that point, it turned into training my brain to understand that you don't need to feel the legs in order to move them. And then once we got past that part, you don't need to feel these legs in order to walk, jog, run. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's kind of still where I'm at. I've gained some feeling back in portions of my legs, but for the most part, I mean, they're numb. Like I don't really feel much of anything. But it was going back through and training the brain to understand, like, hey, these things still work. Like, you can still move them. You just can't feel you move them.
So when we talk about retraining the brain, Ryan, you're like legit retraining your brain to understand that you have body parts that can move, but it's just not, it's not firing off, right? It's not firing off to understand it.
Yep.
And how long has that been?
Dude, I still deal with it. I mean, it's what, 4 years now?
And you're still serving our country, basically. I mean,
absolutely.
That's man, I applaud you. Guys, hope you're getting tons of value out of this. Share this bad boy out. Ryan is an absolute beast of a man, and I respect you more than you ever know, man, even more than back in the day when we used to drive in a little pickup truck. Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a second because I definitely want to go over some memories.
Yoda.
Yeah, so there's something you had talked about goals, right? And setting goals. And I have my method, and there's many methods out there. You mind sharing your kind of method of your fundamentals of how you set goals, and then a kind of a brief description on how you make sure you hit those goals and you accomplish those goals and you progress.
Right. And John, we've talked about this before. To me, goal setting is super important. It helps me organize what it is that I'm trying to do, right? And I have goals for my professional career, my personal life, financially. I have goals for everything. And the main thing that I do is I try to look, I don't try to set goals too far out. And I have long-term goals, but I don't say like, hey, within 10 years, I want my savings account to look like this. Because to me, it's harder for me to stay on track like that. Everyone's different. Some people, they can stay on track and that's fine. I like to set easily obtainable goals that are relative to the time frame that I'm looking for. So, for instance, right now, I kind of fell off the fitness bandwagon for a little while because of training and all this stuff took over, and I just did this big move. I got out of the military. I made all these friggin' excuses for myself to why I couldn't work out, right? Happens to the best of us.
Yep.
And it brought me out of the gym because in my mind, I justified I needed to be home more, doing more at home, rather than taking care of the little stuff that actually keeps my engine going, which is working out. So my first goal was the easiest one, and I had to make it because I had to give myself a reason to go to the gym. So my first goal was to get to the friggin' gym. Just get there. Go get a gym membership, something that is going to tell you are paying money now, so now you're going to go and work out. And I did that. And I was like, okay, first step is complete already. And then what I do is I'll set a goal maybe 2 or 3 months out, and I'll backwards plan off of that goal. So right now, my ultimate goal is to get back into the 1,000-pound club, get back to the level of fitness I was at pre-injury. I've gotten close a few times, but I've never actually made it. This time I'm going to make it. So I set weight goals for myself based on where I'm at and based on what I've done in the past as far as growth is concerned and strength is concerned. I set goals. So I want to rep out 225 for 15 times. Not bad. It's not that far-fetched, So I set that for 2 months out. And what did I came off of that, and I developed a plan, backwards planning off of that. Like, where do I need to be a month from now in order to make sure that I'm still on track? So it's kind of like a sub-goal. But for me, I call it backwards planning. I'm a military guy. That's what we call it. So I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be a month from now. Now that gives me my 1 month time frame. Like, okay, now I'm only dealing with 4 weeks. Okay, 4 weeks, that's easy to manage. I can go through and be like, okay, well, I know that if I want to hit 225 for 15 reps, I'm talking about high reps with a decent amount of weight. So I need to structure my workouts in order to accommodate that style of lifting. So how am I going to do that? Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. And I map it all out week to week. and I go through, and all I got to do at that point is just execute. And once you start executing, when you get to that point where you're like, okay, this is where I should be at, like you've surpassed it. In most cases, if you're doing your planning properly, you should surpass that goal. You shouldn't just try to meet it, because if you're putting in the work and you're doing what you need to do, you should surpass that goal, because in your mind you're going to be like, this is my goal. I'm going to make it easily obtainable and something that is not far-fetched, so that by the time you get to that goal, it's like, that was easy. I should have aimed for higher.
So let me ask you this. Are you thinking bigger nowadays, and bigger as far as like picture wise? So you talk about reverse engineering. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
So you basically, what Ryan's saying is he has this 90-day goal, right, per se. And then he reverse engineers it to basically break it down monthly, weekly, daily.
Yep.
And knows what he's got to do and complete focus, right? But he also talks about, it's not just fitness. He does all equities of life. Financial, personal, health, relationship, right? Every single equity. But I want to ask you about thinking big and thinking small. And I was sitting in a room with a bunch of billionaires, and I thought I was thinking big until I got in that room. And I said, my God, these guys have it all. Why are they thinking so big still? Right. And I realized they got there because they're thinking so big. Right. And we surround ourselves with people that are, we think we're thinking big because the people we're surrounding ourselves with aren't thinking that big. Right. But when you separate yourself from the reality of the people that you're currently with and say, man, let me see what the bosses, the ballers are doing, you're like, man, they're actually thinking so much bigger than I thought. So today, are you thinking much bigger in all your goals and what you want in life than before you had your accident?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it is unfortunate, but I think a lot of people that come through or go through a circumstance, that I kind of went through, or, similar type circumstances, it takes something like that in order for you to start like, man, those goals that I was setting that I thought was like important, that shit ain't important. You know what I mean? So a lot of my stuff now is actually based around, this is what I mean, for me right now, what's big for me is family. My family is absolutely everything. So all of my goals, like I have certain rules that I follow in order to make sure that what I'm doing is in line with what my morals are, right? Like what's important to me. And if I set a goal, like I'll give it that quick check, like, hey, does this fit into my overall theme, my morals? Does this fit into it, or is this just something like I want? And if it passes that check, like, okay, I'll go through with it. But if it doesn't, I'll take a minute to step back and be like, you know what? Like, yeah, that sounds cool, but does that really fit into like my overall theme? And for me, like retirement was always like, oh, dude, I just need to do my 20 years and retire. Like that was my whole mentality in the Army. It's like, just do your 20 years and you can retire. But then I sat back and I'm like, 20 years, like I'm only going to be making like $2,000 a month. Like that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
I'm like, 20 years and retire is not the plan. That can't be the plan. If that's the plan, like I need to severely change my life in order to meet that plan. And that's not that's not why you set goals. You don't change your life to fit the goal. You change the goal to fit your life. So, I had to make, changes. Obviously, I got out. I found a job that meets those personal goals and professional goals, but still feeds into my overall theme of what it is that I'm looking for within my family goals and everything combined. Like this lifestyle makes more sense for me because it actually fits my theme versus the 20 years and retire with $2,000 in my bank account.
I love that, man. And so you talked about your morals. So I run off core values. It's the same thing.
Same thing.
And so businesses or people, like if you don't have a set of core values that you filter every decision through, because look, life is simple, guys. It's the sum of the choices you make.
Absolutely.
Right? I made some shitty choices. I had some shitty outcomes. I made better choices. I had better outcomes. But how do you make a better decision, right? So I do two things. One is I run it through my core values. So first, if you don't have core values out there, make sure you have core values. Figure out what are your characteristics that you live and die by that are non-negotiable. So you run it through that filter. Then you just ask yourself one question, man. And it's, is this getting me closer to my goal or further away?
Yep.
And there's so many things out there that you could be doing, and so many opportunities coming your way. And it's just, you ask yourself that simple question. And it's fitness related. You ask yourself, eating that, donuts, that get me closer or further away? Financial, it's going to spend $200 on something that you don't really need, closer or further away from your savings. Like, asking yourself that question will alleviate so many bad choices that create bad results, that create a subpar, regular, mediocre life. I love that, man. That's phenomenal. And what habits? I guess I love what you've become as far as, like I said, I've known you forever. So what habits did you have? What were the 2-3 habits that you're like, I can't believe I was that person, or I can't believe I used to do that all the time? And it could be one, whatever you want to share. And then what are your top few habits that you have that you really could say, man, this has really helped me create who I am today, and it's only going to propel me to become a better person every day?
Okay. So some bad habits, and I am a man, so I've had, everyone's got bad habits, right? Before, I drew what I considered happiness off of helping other people constantly, which isn't a bad thing, until you go a little bit too far, and it starts to affect what really matters most to you: your family life, your personal life, all that stuff. Right? It's always good to give, but they're actually, and believe me, I can tell you this with a high degree of certainty, and my wife will definitely tell you the same, that there is a limit to how much you should be spending your time and energy on other people. We talked about it before. It sounds like you're being greedy, but it's not. It's not greed. And that was something that was like, I confused that with a core value. One of my core values is helping others. But what I did was I took that one a little too far. I spent too much emphasis on that one and not enough on the others. And so that's something I've actually scaled back on. And in return, that developed my other core values up more, spending more time with my family, being more family oriented, like instead of going out and helping 6 different people on a weekend, driving all around the earth in order to make other people happy or spend less money, while I'm spending more money helping them, I'm spending more time on the things that actually matter. Me, my family, spending more time, and not just with my wife and my son, but my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers, I've seen them more in the past 4 years than I've seen them for the first 5 years that I was in the Army before I got hurt. Probably 3 or 4 or 5 times as much. And that's because I made that shift, because I recognized a problem. It showed me, it brought it to light how much of a problem this actually was. And then I took, like you always say, I took massive action in order to correct it. I didn't get rid of that because that is still one of my core values, is helping other people.
Just balanced it more.
Exactly. And you talk about that too, living a balanced life.
Yep.
Dude, honestly, okay, so I'm glad you brought up balanced, because that was actually the one thing that this whole process taught me, was how much balance is actually, like, it's important. You can't go too far to one side or the other without affecting the other side of the spectrum. So that was one bad habit. Another bad habit that I had, and not that the habit's completely gone, but it's no longer like a bad habit. I drank a lot, dude. After I got hurt.
And I think, before you get into it, I think a lot of people, when you're coming up against adversity and you're coming up against challenges, and you sit there and say, what, I don't know how to overcome this. As much as I'm trying, there's still that treadmill you're just continually going on. And, when will I ever catch a break? Even though you knew that you caught a break, we still get in our own thoughts, and we alleviate that thought by supplementing our mind with alcohol or pills or anger, or even like TV or in social media, right? We create a distraction in our mind to not have us feel that way, no matter how strong you are. So talk about that, because I love that, man, that you're honest about that.
Yeah. so after, I stopped taking all these painkillers and shit, and I sobered up from that. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. It cleared my mind to start processing some of these thoughts. And obviously I wasn't too thrilled about the processing portion of it. But it was something like I had to go through. Like I had to, at least for a portion of the day, just sit there and just deal with what had happened, because I knew if I didn't deal with it, it was going to cripple me. And it did for like the first half of every day. It crippled the shit out of me. But then the second half of the day came around and I just drowned it. And at the time, I was, we were in these like, it's like a glorified hotel room. I mean, it's really like a 2-bedroom apartment that they have for us at Walter Reed. And I would slam down some like Franzia or like box wine and just I get lit. I get lit because I was just done like dealing with it for the day. And I couldn't mentally turn it off in order to like, start dealing with, I don't know, like let's go to bed. So in order to compensate for that, I would just completely drown it all in alcohol until I passed out. So a couple of things that, came from that was I was completely detached from everybody. And, I had friends at Walter Reed. I had like friends that got hurt earlier in the deployment that were at Walter Reed that were like, I mean, not that they were excited that I was there. Like, like, oh shit, what's up, man? What brought you here? Like no one's happy about it, but Josh O'Neill, a great buddy of mine, he would come up to my room every night and be like, dude, why don't you just come down and like hang out with everybody? Like and they do, like, that's what we did. We hung out downstairs. We played cornhole and like talked about, stupid stuff that's going on with, people's limbs and stuff. So he would come up every night and be like, beg me to come down. And I couldn't interact with people because I was so stuck in trying to deal with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I mean, the alcohol perpetuates that, right? Once you get into the habit of just doing nothing but drinking, well, guess what you have to do every night? You just got to drink in order to calm down. You're not going to calm down because you didn't have a drink. But if you never got into that rhythm in the first place, you wouldn't need that drink to calm down.
And what did you replace it with?
Oh, what did I replace alcohol with?
Yeah. Was it a good habit? Was it another bad habit?
No. It was actually initially it was kind of like a weird, not a habit, I would say, but I started talking to a psychiatrist like on the regular, which was another big turning point in my life, because admitting to anything or needing any kind of help like that, I was like, this is weird. I don't know if I can do this. But it was something that was kind of like forced on me almost. But once it was forced on me, I was like, this shit actually works. There's like some science behind this or something. So I did that for a while until like the doctor was like, you really don't, you don't need me. Like you're doing all this on your own. You don't need my help. I mean, if you want to come and talk still, like you can still come and talk. But like just understanding that I needed to vocalize just like I do now. Like I still need to do it. I still need to vocalize what happened, because that helps my healing process. What happened and how I got through it helps my healing process. So when I was still active duty, I was doing some suicide prevention stuff, and I was the lead suicide prevention guy for our unit. And every time I talked to somebody, they'd always use that M word, and that's why it still sticks out in my mind, that miracle word. And it was always like, man, it's going to take a miracle for me to repair my marriage. It'll take a miracle for me to get out of this, legal action that I'm going through. It's going to, all these guys that were thinking this way, and I mean, these are men, you know what I mean? These are like battle-hardened men talking about it's going to take a miracle for them to do this. That's what really got me to not hate the word, but understand it.
And give it a different meaning, right? Like
exactly.
In life, we talked about before, like life is everything you give a meaning to. The words we say are the things, the meaning we give to it. So the word miracle, I mean, you said it before, like, dude, you already had your miracle.
Yeah.
Like, you're
Use
here.
the one you got.
Yeah, you're here.
Yes.
You're here. Let me a few more questions here, Ryan. I mean, we're an hour into it, and I don't want to keep you, but I want to definitely have a few more questions for you. So,
Sure.
what time do you wake up in the morning? On average.
On average, about 6:30.
6:30. Is there something you do in the morning that you do every morning? Is there a morning ritual you have, whether it's 1 thing, 2, 10, 15, 30, or you just kind of get up and do your thing? Like, what do you have as a habit that your morning ritual that you must do in the morning?
Yeah, so absolutely. I absolutely have my ritual. And 6:30 is like when, like on a weekend or whatever, I tend to sleep in a little bit. 5 to 5:30 is my window for during the work week. I have to wake up 2 to 2.5 hours before work starts, because I have to mentally prepare myself, physically prepare myself, and it's a routine that I go through. I wake up, brush my teeth, hop in the shower, get dressed, or at least halfway dressed if I got to dress nice to go into work. Go to the coffee pot, 2 cups of coffee minimum. Got to. 2 cups of coffee is what gets me going and gets me out the door. And I know this is like a lot of people say this is a negative thing, but for me, like I have to go through and I got to look at news stuff. I need to stay kind of savvy on what might have happened overnight. If I turn it on,
your role is different though. So everybody hear this, like watching news is no good unless you have some kind of connection that you need to understand it in order to produce work. Right. So that you have a reason to, right? Like social media, like if you want to be in social media all day playing around with it, but if you're doing something to help grow your business or add value, it's a different story. But go ahead.
Right. So, I'll turn on the news and I'll wait just long enough to see if there's any breaking news, anything that happened over the night that, I wasn't tracking. If there's like, Russia investigation, I'm like, cool, have fun with it. I don't want to watch it. I don't care about it. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's only going to bring me down, basically. So then after that is usually little man waking up, screaming, usually screaming for mama. At which point mama wakes up and mama takes care of little man. And then I make my lunch to ensure that I'm going to eat healthy throughout the day. Prepare any kind of things that I might need for any kind of training or anything, and then I go to work. I try to get to work early. I get to work early so I can get rid of email stuff, all the traffic. You get rid of all the BS that's not going to affect your day. Get that out of the way before the day even starts, and that way when it starts, I'm fresh. I'm ready to go.
And do you have a list of things that you're grateful for that you repeat in the morning? Do you have it to where you repeat it when you start getting into a negative mood? Because no matter how positive we are, we get some negative self-doubt and negative thought. It's just the world we live in. So do you have anything that you repeat that you say that you're grateful for? Is there a process behind your gratitude?
So yeah, absolutely. First of all, I'm probably one of the most optimistic people you'll meet in your life these days. I never used to be that way. I used to be that negative Nancy that no one wanted to be around. But these days I'm very, very optimistic. I look at, I removed this part of my brain that says like somebody's doing this or this is happening to me or someone's doing this to me. Like this is a personal attack. Like anytime something goes wrong, it's to me. Mm-hmm. And I removed that. And the way that I've done that is to take a moment to step back, right? Like reflection to me is a huge, huge part of my happiness. I need to step back and say, like, okay, this happened. This is a direct result of me failing to do X, Y, and Z, or me not understanding or not knowing to do X, Y, and Z to get to this desired outcome. So every morning that I wake up, number one, I thank God for my little son. Every single morning. The kids, he might drive me absolutely insane. Just about every day. But, I say just about, but I mean like every day. At some point, that kid drives me insane. But he's at that age where he's supposed to. He's a boy. He's an absolute brute. The kid, I've never been driven more insane and been made so happy by one individual in my entire life. So I understand why parents go crazy after a certain amount of years. It's because it's just like you're constant from one extreme to the next. But I thank, I'm so thankful for him in my life. You know what I mean? Like to be able to pass things on to teach somebody, life lessons that I've learned and to help mold him to be better than me. Like that, I don't know. I'm forever grateful for that. And I know you know the feeling.
That's
Especially
it.
after all your struggles getting pregnant, man. Like I know that you got that part down. Like that is I'm sure one of the first things you say to yourself in the morning is like, I am thankful for that little girl in there.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, I love what you said about reflection, brother, because even though let's just play a scenario out. Like you get this email from somebody, you get this text from somebody, and you're like, that came across like she's doing that to cause some kind of reaction from me, right? And
right.
You sit back and you start assuming all these things, and all you're assuming is negative.
Yeah.
Like all you're assuming is a negative thing, and you may be right, you may be wrong, but I need to learn from you, because having that, hold on, let me shut that off for a second. Let me just reflect on what else could this mean, right? Asking that question or not being so like, oh, she doesn't like me, so when she said this, she means that. Like,
right.
And I think having that, if you're able to shut that off like you did, you're able to have better, deeper experiences in relationships with people, because you're not being so assumptive that somebody's trying to get you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This might sound like, it might come off a little crazy, but in my mind, it makes perfect sense, right? At the end of the day, this is going to piss people off. There's nobody on this planet that cares more about you than you. Nobody. Not your mom, not your wife, not your kids, nobody. You care more about you than anyone else could ever. If you didn't, you would leave your hand on a hot friggin' plate as it's burning your skin. You would stab yourself to see what it felt like. You would do crazy things, because at the end of the day, like, well, shit, my mom cares more about me, so whatever. I don't have to worry about this. It's you're wired to care more about yourself, to preserve yourself. And one of the things that we get away from is preserving our mental sanity. We always want to assume things. We want to think that this person is doing something to affect us in a personal way. When at the end of the day, like, it could be personal, but chances are maybe it's business related. Like, okay, we can't process your paperwork because it's not like this. Like, listen, I was told this is what I needed to bring down here. This is what I brought. Now you're telling me that this isn't enough? Like, that's most people's response. Now you're telling me I'm wrong again? Like, you told me this, and I brought you this, and now it's not right. Yeah, sir, like, that's just how it's supposed to be. Like, this is the only way I can process your paperwork. People take that as a personal attack. It's personal. No, that's business. That's completely different. Yep. They're saying in order for them to execute their job that you need to do X, Y, and Z. You failed to do X, Y, and Z. They didn't. They're doing their job. They need to make sure that your paperwork's right. And people get caught in that trap where they're like, this is you're doing this to me. Like, no, I'm not doing this to you.
Something, man, and I think it's just something we all could learn from. Who holds you accountable, man? Like, you talked about you had a psychiatrist, you know what I mean? Like, I have several coaches. You obviously have your wife, but like, who are the 1-2 people that hold you accountable to get your goals done, to keep your mind right, to keep you going? Who's that person or those people?
Honestly, I have a team of people that keep me accountable. On the psych side of it, like how I'm mentally doing, I can list off hundreds of Army buddies that are constantly like, hey, like, we all reach out to each other. We have Facebook page specifically so that we can just get up on there and be like, hey man, like, I'm having a bad day. just thinking about X, Y, and Z. And immediately you get flooded. Like, hey, dude, hit me up. Or you'll just get phone calls randomly. And it's our way of keeping each other in check. Like, if we notice someone's not posting enough in there, or we haven't really heard anything, we'll hit them up directly. Like, hey, man, what's going on? Just, give each other like that mental check. So on that side, it's usually, buddies that went through what I went through. Jesse Diana is definitely one of those dudes. Every once in a while, I mean, out of the blue, he'll hit me up like, hey, what are you doing?
He's a good dude, man.
How you feeling? Do you need to come out here? Do you need to do some shooting? So, I have that network of people for like personal life stuff. I mean, my wife just keeps me on that stuff. She does 90% of it. I'm not gonna lie, because as you know, like I'm constantly gone, man. Like, she runs that house. She manages the family like completely while I go off and have fun in different countries, basically. So she's got that part down.
So you're fortunate to have a brotherhood and a bond through the experience that you guys created. So anybody watching this, look, if you don't have a brotherhood, if you don't have those people that are pushing you to get better and really saying, hey, step on my hand and get higher, or telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, because a friend is not friendly. Let me tell you that. No. A friend is not going to be friendly all the time. They're going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And think that you have to be okay with that. First of all, be okay with the fact that you can say, okay, you know what? He's coming at me this way because he's trying to help me. So what I want everybody to do is find your brotherhood.
Yeah.
Find your brotherhood.
Absolutely.
Ryan was fortunate enough to have it through the experiences and through the service. But if you're not in the Army, if you're not in the Marines, dude, there's other people that are like-minded that want you to win. I guarantee you, separate yourself from the friends that you think want you to win and find friends that want you to win and lift you up. So let's two more things. Mentor, do you have any mentors out there that anybody can go Google, look up, that kind of helped you, with maybe motivation or anything like that?
Not really. I follow a lot of guys on Facebook, and like Gary Vee is definitely one of them. And not that I stalk him on Facebook or whatever, but every once in a while, just to get a quick, pick me up or a boost to my day, if I'm, I'll pull up some Gary Vee and see what he's talking about, because the way that he addresses people excites me. You know what I mean?
That's why.
Very straightforward and blunt, and this is what it is. And if you're not this, well, then guess what? You're not going to get that.
Yeah.
I like that mentality.
Some Jersey. So I think that's probably why.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I look at Daily V every day, and I'm motivated because I get motivated, right? Like, I have people that push me, whether it's, virtually or physically. If you were to be done here, go get a scratch off and win $10 million, what would you do with it, man? You've been through all this stuff in your life.
Yeah.
And you have all these amazing experiences, or they're not so amazing experiences that created amazing experiences. Like, what's the one thing you would do with $10 million?
Man, that's a good question. So it's always been, one of my goals at some point during my life. Later on, it's kind of like one of my long-term goals as far as after retirement and life after retirement is to help returning veterans that have been injured or, PTSD, TBI, and provide for them, kind of not necessarily what Jesse's doing, not to take anything away from what Jesse's doing, because he's doing fantastic work. But for when they're actually at like Walter Reed, one of the main things that we ran into is dude, we got bored because we didn't have anything to do. We were getting paid extra money because we were all hurt and jacked up and going through recovery, but we didn't have anything to do, like a purpose anymore, a job. Our job was to recover, which, cool. I mean, if you want to just do nothing but, recover, I guess that's great for you. But for a lot of us, we're like, man, put us to work. Give us a purpose again, even if it's just near term. So the one thing that excited most of us the most was just going and volunteering. Like, we'll go volunteer our time. We're already getting paid by the Army, so I don't need you to pay me. I want to do something. So I would like to set up something both in the Maryland area and down in San Antonio at the other Army hospital, to where we can put veterans in touch with local organizations that could use, some part-time help that are doing good for the community, and to give veterans the opportunity to continue to serve while they are recovering, because that's one of the big things that gets taken away from you when you get there, is that sense of pride of, serving your community. And I think it'll be a good step towards that mental recovery piece, to maintain that purpose in life.
And that's great, man, because I think that's where the fall off is, right? So guys that go out and serve, and women that go out and serve our country, it's because they have a purpose, and their purpose is to give us freedom. So if unfortunate events happen, and then all of a sudden they don't have that purpose anymore, not everybody's as strong as Ryan. And not everybody's as strong as some of these people that I've met, and being able to push through, whether they have limbs, not have limbs, and be able to retrain their thought process. And maybe even afterwards, now all of a sudden people are trying to help them, and it's not always the case, but they just went from extreme purpose to a low of no purpose to now all of a sudden people wanting to help them. It's that middle area where I think a lot of people fall off, and not everybody's as strong, like I said, as you are, to be able to come out on top of that, and being able to utilize how you are retraining your brain and understand that your purpose can change, right? And it doesn't just, maybe if you can't go to war again, have them understand what their purpose is. I love that, man. That's phenomenal. Last question before we dive into a quick Q&A. One piece of advice. So if you could go ahead, and I said, man, I want you to say your biggest piece of advice for anybody that is hit with any obstacles, adversity, and where they think it's all over, or they think, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. What's your big piece of advice to them?
The number one thing you have to think about is you are so much stronger than you actually know that you are. Your body already possesses the power to move all the weight that you will ever need to move. It already possesses the power. It's about training your brain to understand that the power is there, and the brain needs to understand that the body, yes, can do this. So if you're already strong enough to move all this amount of weight, it's already pre-programmed in you. You're just training your brain to do that. You can train your brain to get past anything. You could say to yourself until you're blue in the face, like, man, I would never be able to go to Ranger school, or I would never be able to go to be a SEAL, a Navy SEAL. Why not? Why not? I mean, you have the same brain power as everybody else. It's what you choose to do with that brain power that makes them different than you. And I don't like when people like, oh, well, he's got the body for that, or he's got or she's got this that I don't have. Get it.
Yep.
I mean, if you're looking for a miracle, sweetheart, you already got it. You got it at birth. Use that miracle. And that's obviously, I mean, that's kind of my theme right now, is use that miracle. You were given it. You may never get it. Hopefully you never get another one, but likely you won't ever get another one. So just use the one that you have, and never accept the fact that don't ever doubt yourself and you and your body's capabilities, because I promise you'll always be stronger than you ever thought possible. It's just going to take those times, those hard times, those down times, those times that you think you're not going to friggin' make it through the other side, and you're going to be hoping for a miracle. And guess what? You're going to end up pushing through. And at the end of it, if you say to yourself that, oh, it was a miracle that I made it through it, I'll reach through Facebook and slap you in the face, because it wasn't a miracle. It was you using the miracle that you had inside you already and putting forth that effort in order to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish.
I love it, man. I so appreciate you and everything that we went over the last hour. And man, honestly, it's an hour and a half, and I could probably do another 10 hours of this, because it's just straight value. And it's just, it's so good to see a like-minded brother in you because, you know, you and I, man, we used to do some stuff that, you know, we're not so proud
dumb
of.
shit.
Yeah, some extremely dumb shit, man. And you know, we've done a lot of things that, I wouldn't say I regret, right? Because we pay homage and pay respect to our obstacles. But Ryan and I weren't the best people. You know, we weren't. We liked to party, have fun, and, you know, just go out and do whatever we wanted to do. And we thought there was no repercussions to our actions.
Yep.
But there was, and it was a shitty life. You know what I mean? Like, Ryan was able to go to the Army. I you know, went to a different place, and it wasn't an Army. So I had to figure out different ways.
Right.
But we had different paths. It's so cool that we started from, you know, the same town, and we kind of had different paths through life, but we ended the same and our mindset. So I love that. So I'm going to get, anybody have any questions for Ryan? One question for myself, but any questions out there that you may have, whether it's maybe you have somebody that, you know is serving and they're having trouble, or you particularly having trouble, or you're a wife of somebody that's serving, or a brother or a sister, or maybe just mindset-wise. Who has any questions out there for Ryan while we got him? I want to be able to answer any questions out there. We had, 45 views right now. We're crushing on the views, man. So you're definitely engaging. So I guess people don't want to hear my voice all the time. So I got to bring you on again. So anybody have questions? Let's go ahead. Let's see. Stacy's still on, crushing it. Good. What do we got here? Any questions? I'm just going through the comments now, man, to see if there's anything out there. A lot of love coming your way. So let me see if there's any questions. Come on, guys. Come on with any questions. So while people are trying to think of something to ask you, man, so what's next for you? What's next for Ryan and your journey?
You know, my journey, my recovery process really never ends. If I ever stop doing, any kind of physical fitness and cardio and stuff, my body starts to degrade really fast. I start to get those back pains and stuff. So I have to maintain that stuff. I have to continue to recover. It's a lifelong recovery process. So for me, it's important that I stay active no matter what I do. Everything that I do is there has to be that mental activity that happens. Number one, I need to stay constantly engaged. And number two, I need to stay physically engaged. I need to make sure that I'm doing all the things that I need to do to make sure that I can still function normally, both mentally and physically. So for now, I'm going to enjoy this, civilian job for a while, hopefully until I retire. And like long term, I honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to doing some sort of politics back in Jersey.
Ooh, coming for him, man.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna get me to move back there, but still, it might change the lives of the people that are there. That's for damn sure, because some of those people need it. And look, if you guys want to see two guys that we're told can't in many different forms and different ways, and had lives to where they could have went one way versus the other, you're looking at them. We're both from the same town,
right down the street.
Right down the street. We partied together. We did some crazy things, and then we just kind of lost touch. And I didn't know what Ryan was doing the past 9 years. I just knew that he was serving our country. And next thing I know, I'm talking to a guy that's not the same Ryan Palmieri, and I asked myself, man, he's changed. And I said, you know what, though? That's the most brilliant, most amazing thing is the change upward, right? The personal growth, and you got out of your environment, I think, is what helped you as well from where I'm at. If you're in an environment where there's negative influences, you wouldn't be who you are today. So any questions? Let's see. So we got, okay, here we go. All right, we got Ashley had asked. I know you went over the fitness goals, but what's another goal you have for this year?
All right, Ash, put me on the spot with goals. Honestly, my main goal for this year is to bring more balance to my budget. So we spent a lot of money in the past couple months, moving from one state to the next. And I went about a month and a half without receiving a paycheck. On top of spending all this money for moving trucks and all that kind of stuff, like when you start to rent in a new place, they need all this extra money down and all that. So it kind of drains the bank account somewhat. So my goal for this year is to bring myself back to what I consider, a healthy budget.
I love it. Look, so I got my vision board. I don't know if you do vision boards, but I got mine. I don't know if you could see it up there. Yep. So there's mine and the wife. So I got budget up there as well, man. I mean, we with the new one, that joined our family, she decided that she's not that cheap. So, as much money as you're making, man. And look, chasing the dollar is always going to be another dollar to chase. So that's not your main goal. No. But we need to make sure that we're budgeting ourselves for that future, for not just us, but for our loved ones. So let's see, we got another one here. When are you coming back to New Jersey?
That's a great question. So I got a short trip coming up, going overseas for a little while. And then once I get back, I'm packing the family in the truck and we're coming up. So hopefully by September or October, I'll be back in Jersey.
That's the best time. That's the best time to go, brother.
Yep, exactly. That's my favorite time of year in Jersey. So.
Yep. Oh man, that's the best time. So we got another question here from Christy. So how would you feel about Jackson wanting to join the military and following your footsteps? That's a hell of a question. Good job. I'm curious.
And you know what? To be honest with you, like I'm actually kind of, the father in me wants to be like, I did my time. You don't need to do it, right? But at the end of the day, if my son feels the calling to want to go and join the Army, I'm going to support him. I'm going to give him a lot more information than my recruiter gave me. I will try to convince him to join something like the Air Force, something that's a little bit more cush.
Yep.
But I'm not opposed to it. Do I think that I've done enough for our family? I mean, I don't really know what that means per se. I think I've spilt enough blood. But as far as, taking action and doing the thing, if he's got the calling and, the will to do it, nowadays with the kids we see growing up now, I mean, what's our military going to look like? You know what I mean? If people do it, I'd support them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's and it's whatever they want to do in the end, but you got to support it and guide them, to be the best they could be and, be a parent, but also be a leader. And I think, Ryan, you're an amazing leader. And that is the most incredible compliment I think I can give you. You served our country, and I thank you so much for that. But you're a leader in life, a leader in your family. When you're a leader, you create other leaders that make this world better, and that's what it's about, man.
Yeah, man.
Little by little, inch by inch, brother.
Exactly.
So we got one more question, and I'll let you go because I think you got something to do. But it's from Stacy. So, what is the one thing you need from your partner for the Ryan and John? What was that? Hold on. What is one thing you need from your partner? Do you know how to answer that? That's your wife, so we're going to hide that comment. That's something for you to think about.
I think I know what she's getting at. Like, what's the one thing that you need from your partner in order to keep doing what you need to do, right? In order to keep driving on, like, what's that one thing that is invaluable to the relationship between you and your wife, or man and husband? And what's that one piece that if you took it away, the system would fail? Communication. Absolutely.
Communication.
I learned that one the hard way. I was a shitty communicator.
Yeah.
Even though my job in the Army is to freaking communicate with people.
Yeah.
When it came to like real world communication, I couldn't do it.
Yep. And it's understanding what they want. So if you ever took the love language test, take it. I haven't had my wife take it yet, but lots of times our significant others, we try to give them everything, but if we just gave them that one thing they want over and over again, they'd be a lot happier.
Yep.
So you got to know what that one thing is, right? Everybody has several needs. As humans, we have needs. I think there's 7 or 6 of them. But what is your partner's need? What's their love language? Figure that out. And this way you can go ahead and approach them in the way they want to be approached. Maybe they like touch, right? Rather than verbal.
Right.
Telling people I love you. So maybe they like, the caring side. I mean, just figure it out. And from there, be able to communicate the way they like to communicate.
Yep.
So Andrew Carver wants to know, are you a Chevy or a Ford man?
These days, I'm a Ford man.
Oh, man. Uh-oh. Man. Let's see. Where did God fit in? Okay, so this one gets into pretty deep, and this is the last one here. You can kind of be brief or deep, however you want to go with it. But where did God fit into your recovery?
Where did God fit into my recovery? So, I'm a firm believer in you only get dealt with what you can deal with. Not what you think you can deal with, but what you can actually deal with. And sometimes along the way, you need to be tested. Everyone needs to be tested, right? Because you never know how truly strong you are until you've been tested and you've made it through it. And you were able to say to yourself, like, I doubted myself 90% of the time along that route. But somehow, I kept my head down, I kept driving on, and I made it through. And I believe that, it's God that presents us with those challenges. Now, like I said, most people get one miracle, right? If you get 2, it's usually not a good thing. I got my second, but my second was a wake-up call for me, right? You need to build a stronger you, because the you that you are now is not going to make it. You need to be better, and this is how you're going to do it. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to force you to build yourself to be stronger. And I mean, that's where God fit in, man.
I love that. Be a better version of you yesterday, right? You got to beat one person. That's you yesterday. And, you just said something that kind of blew my mind of who you are today. God knows you're not going to be the person you're meant to be without throwing these obstacles in your way. And it's a great way to look at it. And it's true. I mean, pay respect to your obstacles, because every obstacle that you're thrown, it just kind of peels a little another layer of you and presents a new version, and another layer presents a new version. So that's great, man. So look, I'm going to let you go. This was incredible. I absolutely loved it. So I want to, if there's anything else you want to say, go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
Honestly, John, I want to thank you for providing me this opportunity. It means a lot to me. Obviously, like we talked about, man, every time I get to share a little piece or, to express, some of my feelings and emotions, it helps me out. So I appreciate you giving me a platform to do it. And hey, if any of you guys out there ever need to reach out, man, reach out. It's better to reach out and talk to somebody. You ain't going to get any judgment from me. In fact, I'll probably make you feel pretty damn good about yourself if we get into the weeds about some stuff. So reach out if you need to reach out. All right.
I love it, man. Listen, I appreciate you once again for serving our country. But more importantly, man, for not serving our country just overseas, but serving our country in your everyday life by being the best person you could be, to provide your family with the best experience and the best life, and provide people around you with the understanding of, look, you want a miracle? Shit, you're in one right now. Go take advantage of it. Exactly. You're gold, brother. I love it, man. If you have any questions, make sure you hit me up, hit Ryan up. I have a little visitor, my little one miracle.
There we go.
Usually say bye to everybody and hi to everybody. Say
What's
hi.
up, girl?
Say hi. Can you wave? Can you wave? Go on, wave.
There you go. Nice smile.
Yeah. So she's there you go. Yeah, there you go. So you did it. So she just got away. She just took her first few steps.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, it was like 5 steps, and I had to get her attention by a water bottle. But yeah, so that's 10 months, man. 10 months of amazingness. So once again, I appreciate you. Thank you very much, guys. Listen, if you have any questions, hit up Ryan, hit myself up. But you're sitting in a miracle. Do something with it.
Awesome, man.
All right, guys. I'll see you later, Ryan. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Later, brother.